Of course, the role of the Holocaust plays a central role in the entire issue of modern anti-Semitism. And this Friday, January 27th, is International Holocaust Remembrance Day. Israeli President Isaac Herzog will fly in the coming hours to Brussels, and on Thursday evening will deliver a keynote address to the European Parliament marking the day. With us for more is our international affairs correspondent, Batya Leventhal. And Batya, but first, maybe a word about that past report, because I know you covered also this issue of anti-Semitism on this international level. And as Owen points out, maybe some positive news there, but maybe too soon to draw conclusions.
Right. So the Anti-Defamation League about 2 or 3 weeks ago actually released a report of their own in the United States saying that they think that over the last couple of years, in particular between 2019 and 2022, at least until the end of 2022, the amount of anti-Semitic sentiments, in other words, beliefs, has almost doubled. So it's quite interesting to see how a report like this comes out, and now we're looking at a report that our senior correspondent Owen Altman just reported on, that not only is it stopping to reach its peak, but it's sort of plateaued. I think what people need to understand is we're talking almost here about, if you can imagine, a bathtub that is full but not overflowing.
Right.
And so at the end of the day, it is still incredibly high, and one more incident could completely topple it over. But we are talking about maybe the fact that perhaps from a vandalism point of view and from an actual physical attack point of view, we're seeing sort of a leveling out of that, but not necessarily when it comes to sentiments, beliefs, when it comes to online hate. And all of this seems to not necessarily be plateauing, but actually sort of leveling up.
All right. Again, this is, of course, a hard thing to measure as well. It's always, in some ways, an objective, a subjective measurement. Well, let's talk about International Holocaust Remembrance Day. Let's point out, for those viewers who don't know, this is different from Israel's own Holocaust, National Holocaust Remembrance Day, which, of course, is later in the spring. But this is a day for the entire world. And, of course, Europe is the key location here, and the reason for President Herzog, of course, to go to Brussels on this.
And this was decided years ago by the United Nations. It was looked at trying to find a day to mark or to commemorate the Holocaust in a sense, and they chose the day that the liberation of Auschwitz took place. And I think that's quite fitting that President Isaac Herzog is going to be commemorating this day specifically on Thursday evening amongst the European Union. And the reason that I say that is because, for those who don't know, his father, who was also an Israeli president, might I add, Chaim Herzog, part of British Mandate Palestine, was actually sent to Germany to go and liberate some of the camps, one of the biggest ones being Bergen-Belsen. And so it's quite fitting, and obviously, as we've spoken about, there's some sort of trepidation, at least that Isaac Herzog feels when it comes to the Holocaust, given the fact that he's got such a personal relationship with it, given that his father was actually there liberating some of the camps. But very fitting that he is going to be in the European Union. I think it's also going to be a matter of discussing Israel's strategic alliance with the European Union. We have to remember that under Lapid and the Bennett government, the previous government, was the highest in terms of allies and ties, was the highest they had ever been between Israel and the European Union. That seems to have dropped now, so I think that he's really going to be there to kind of make an impression and solidify those ties. But again, I think it's also likely going to be used by the European Commissioner, Ursula von der Leyen, as well as NATO Secretary Jens Stoltenberg, to really hype up the pressure on Israel as to why they perhaps aren't sending offensive weapons to Ukraine, given the fact that Berlin has just agreed now to send its Leopard 2 tanks, and the United States is now joining in as well with its tanks to sending to Ukraine as well to defend itself.
Right. And I may add, President Herzog surely will relate to the issue of contemporary anti-Semitism in his remarks there in Brussels. Batya Leventhal, thank you for that.